Welcome, friends, to episode 316 of Color Magic Magic Gaming Podcast, where we talk about all types of issues that affect gamers at and away from your gaming tables and computers. I am your host, PowrDragn, and for 316 episodes, still got my main man, who I think we're living in almost the same temperatures in opposite parts of the country today. Brian Sonic, how's it going, dude?
316, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like it's
Because
that
Mother
time.
Nature said so. Yeah, we
Yep,
were just able to get out of our driveway. I think like Monday for the
that's
first time in
crazy.
about a week,
Yeah,
which
we
is
didn't see
unheard of.
we had no ice or snow all year this year. It has actually been very nice. Like it barely got to freezing maybe 2 evenings, and it didn't even ice over anything. So it's been very comfortable here. So I'm
I
glad.
hate you.
I know. Like I'm glad y'all are at least through that, man, because it had potential to be real bad compared to some other places. That being said, before we decide to stomp a mud hole in some people and walk it dry, as one Stone Cold would say on 316, we got to tell people, hey, if you want to support the show, go over to patreon.com/colormagic, where you can get a shout out just like Jeffrey Ruff for being a patron. Thank you, Jeffrey. But also, if you want to make some money, an easy $5, so you can spend it on whatever you want on Magic, go check out our sponsor. It's manipool.com. Manipool.com/promo/color of magic. It's literally like all those other sites where you go on and you can see all the different vendors selling stuff, but they support the show and they're going to give you $5 just for going and setting up an account. Like you can't beat for it's not even free. It's giving you money. I was about to say you can't beat free, but they're literally giving you $5. Like that's as good a deal as you're going to get. Go over to manipool.com/promo/color of magic. And we got more slots open, so more of you can get in there. Everybody's been going and signing up. Really appreciate it. We were almost out of slots, but they gave us some more, so go get them before they run out. Let's get into a sad bit of news from this past week. And that was as the Pro Tour was starting, I believe on Friday, we got news that Kai Budde had passed. And for those of you who don't know who he was, they called him the German juggernaut for a reason. I believe in 1 year, the dude had top aided 3 Pro Tours, a couple of them back to back that he won, not even just top aided. And he has a connection to a lot of people in the community. Even when he wasn't being super active, he still was on people's testing teams. Tons of people have stories about how, they asked him some questions and he sat down with them and he helped them work on their game or their decks or whatever. Like nobody has a bad word to say about him. Right. And he was one of the best of all time. Like we live in an era now where I don't even know if his records can be broken. To get 7 Pro Tour wins, that's gonna be virtually impossible. Like the average player skill is so high now that might just go untouched for who knows how long. And especially
Like,
like
who's
go
even
ahead.
in second? It was
I think Finkel with 4 maybe. So I mean, that's a huge gap. You know what I mean? Like that's just not gonna happen. Because you have to be consistently good for such a long period of time and basically have no bad event. You have to be in contention for top 8 almost every event to even get a shot at that happening. Right? I think who was it? One of the pros, because they did a kind of memorial video of people giving, their kind words on Kai. And one of them said when he beat him in the top, like Kai was so good. It was a quote from Reed Duke. He said, Kai was so good that when you finally beat him on a Sunday of a tournament, that was like winning the tournament.
wow.
And but that's
But
what it felt like because he just never
but it checks
lost.
when somebody's won 8 of them. Yeah, it checks.
Yeah, he just never lost, and he has like a bunch of Grand Prix wins and all that stuff, which Grand Prix are basically what the new, what do they call them? The Open Series or whatever are now. It's basically the equivalent of those. So it's insane, honestly. It's really just crazy. And I started thinking about this because I'd had this conversation with some other people. We're in a kind of unique position in history because most communities, trends, whatever, don't last as long as some of the ones that we get to be part of now. Right? Magic being 30 plus years old, hell, getting close to 35 years old. We have people in our communities, and we talked about this, right? When the artists started passing, that when people got into this, some of them were already 30, 40 years old. And here we are 30 years later, we're going to start seeing some of our legends drop off. And the sad part for Kai is he was only, I think, 2 years younger than I am. His cancer is just hell, man. F cancer, obviously, as everybody likes to say. But that's something that I think we're in this position, not just because our games and our hobbies have lived so long, but we have a stronger connection to not just the games, but the people in them because of social media. Right? We're traveling to more tournaments. We're sharing more things online with people and doing interviews with folks and whatever. So everybody's got all these connections to each other. And sadly, it's just kind of a part of life that we're going to hit that point that at some point, some of our greats in these various hobbies and games and stuff are going to start passing more frequently. It's kind of grim in a way, but those people have been part of a lot of happy and interesting moments for us as
Definitely.
well, too. So it's hard, man. I don't know. Again, we've seen it happening with artists, and I think this is, and we've had a couple of players pass that were, I don't want to insult anybody, but they obviously weren't the upper echelon like Kai was. So this is kind of like one of the first big passings of the player pillars. Right now, we did have other important people in the community pass, obviously, but I think this is the first major household pro tour name I think that I can think of that has passed, and I think that hit a lot of people pretty hard, especially players, that are grinders that looked up to him or hung out with him, or hell, some of them spent a week in a testing house with him, whatever, and got to know him on an intimate level. So yeah, it's a rough one for the community, man. It really, really is. So I don't know. I mean, and you're part of even more communities with video games and everything else. I mean, I guess it's a little different in video games. A lot of people start out younger, I guess, so they have more time. But yeah, I don't know. Get you thinking about your mortality.
Definitely.
It's kind of what it does. Oh man, let's get into another topic here though, which is kind of related and has been bugging me a little bit lately. So for the soapbox today, one of the things, and I'd already been seeing it, but it kind of got brought to the forefront when with all the news with Kai or whatever, that we have to stop comparing everything. Right? We've gotten to a point that people, like, first off, I don't know how those of you that live in this world live where you have to compare everything. Like, it's okay to enjoy multiple things. It's okay to celebrate multiple things. And if you're in sports, it's Jordan or LeBron. It's for a long time it was Peyton or Tom Brady or whatever, right? Like, but it's okay to be like, yeah, they're both really effing good for different reasons, and that's okay. But I've seen people, even just on YouTube videos or TikTok videos, where they'll get into the comments and somebody's just dancing, right? And somebody will be like, oh, well, they're not as good as this person. I'm like, yeah, but it's still really good. Like, it's okay. I can just like both. It's fine. And to see people, even when Kai passed, to be like, well, he's always going to be number two to Finkel. I'm like, all right, take your pick. 1A, 1B. Like, they're both really good. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, do you see this in as many places I do, or am I just
Oh, I mean,
blowing this up?
content creation is full of it. It's literally all ESPN is now. It's like you said, Jordan or LeBron, Nicholas or Tiger Woods. I think that's a lot of it. Is where it just that's kind of what drives it. Is just because obviously, some of the pieces are going to do the best are like, hey, which Call of Duty is better, which NBA Live is the top 10, top 50. That's where we are.
Yeah, I still remember we did this when Final Fantasy came out as a Magic set. People are like, "Well, I don't know why they put so many cards from this game because it's not as good as 7 or whatever." And it's like, Yeah, but they're all good. Obviously, there's fans for different ones. Like, it's okay. Can we like one more than the other? Sure. That doesn't mean we have to like go out of our way to insult the other one. Like, that's just crazy. Like, honestly, it's also crazy. I couldn't imagine somebody who at least wasn't a bad person has passed, and I'm like, I'm gonna hop in the comments and make sure people know I don't think this person's the best. You know what I mean? Like, that's such a weird like mindset to be in. Like, I those are the people I genuinely look at and go like, man, I hope whatever's going on in your life gets better. Because I can't think of any like you have to have something just gnawing at you to go into a post that's being positive about somebody passing who everybody says something great about, and you're just like, yeah, but I got to make sure they know that he's no better than number two. You know, it's just like, come on, man, what are we doing? Like this, that it's so off the rails. It's so off the rails. And I've seen it even recently where somebody will I was looking at the comments on somebody else's video and they're like, "Oh, well, PowrDragn already did blah blah blah." It's like, "Okay, two people can play the same deck and have good results with different cards." Like we don't have to be like this one's better than that one or this creator's better than that creator. Like,
Especially Magic, because if you talk about decks that are competitive, there will only be probably 10. 10's probably an exaggeration.
yeah, yeah. So it's just
You're all going to
weird.
play the same deck at some point if you're actually doing, hey, a deck you can actually take into standard or whatever format and win games with it.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Like, and the other part of it to me is I always want to ask, like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Like, are you expecting people to magically just agree with you? Are you trying to just anger somebody? Like, if so, that's probably where this other trauma in your life is manifesting. They're like, I'm angry and sad. Everybody else has to be angry and sad with me because misery loves company or whatever. But I just don't get it. It's such a weird mindset to be in, and it's not healthy, realistically. Like, maybe that's it, where people always ask me, like, how I have so little stress and whatever, because, like, I just try to enjoy things. You know, even when a Magic set comes out, people are like, "Oh, what's your favorite thing? What's this thing? Do you think this is gonna be better?" I'm like, "Man, we just got new cards. Let's enjoy new cards for, like, a day, right? And then let's talk about results or whatever." But I don't I've gotten to the point, and I being honest, I just literally have looked at a set and I just picked a card to be like, if people ask, this is going to be my favorite card in the set, just so I have something to tell them because I know people are going to ask. Like literally, when we're doing the early access live streams, it's what decks are performing good, how's your day going, what's your favorite card in the set so far, what are you looking forward to the most. Those get asked like 20 times each. So I'll just make up an answer and this is going to be my stock answer for the day. Just because like I just want to enjoy it all. I'm building a bunch of different decks and having fun with new cards. Like you know what? Instead of trying to compare things, why don't we try to find the joy in more things? Because we're gaming, we're playing games and having fun. Hell, the majority of the time, overwhelming majority of the time, there's not even any stakes. We're not playing for anything. So just learn to enjoy it.
But I
But all
guess for
right,
Spike has to know what the best thing is, or else he can't enjoy it.
man,
That's the player type.
bro, you are not lying. And I don't know if I told this story on the channel on the podcast, but when I was at MagicCon Tacoma or Command Fest Tacoma a few months ago, a guy had pulled me aside and he didn't want to start a fuss. So he want to have a private conversation, which was fine. But he said what the commander format panel should be doing is making decisions to make everybody better at Magic. And I was like, I don't understand. And he's like, well, they should be doing this and doing that, and they should make sure everybody understands this better, and we should be building more strategic decks, and we should be doing I'm like, okay, but what if somebody just wants to build a deck of stuff from their favorite artists? Like that should still be okay. You know, and as he talked at one point, he said, well, I look at the room and I don't really fear anybody sitting down to play with them and whatever. It's like, but that's the difference. You're sizing people up. I'm just looking for people to play games with. Right? Like that's a completely different mindset. Like, and he was kind of baffled that people genuinely think like that. Like, and like you're
Especially
saying,
Commander, which is supposed to be a casual format.
yeah, But like you're saying, like he's one of those spikes that everything is super competitive. I'm trying to get better. My opponent should be trying to get better, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, sometimes you're just having fun. You're making plays that are more interesting than the more strategic ones or whatever.
And again, for a lot of people, getting better is just finding ways to make the game more enjoyable for everybody,
That's very true.
as opposed to how can I curb stomp this person on turn 4? Because that's not fun for anybody really. I guess
Yeah.
maybe if you're the spike and you're the one doing the curb stomping, yeah, but nobody else is having fun.
Well, yeah. Well, my thing is, if my opponents aren't even really on the same level I'm on, it's not even fun for me. It's not to sound rude, but it's like you roll up to the Special Olympics, you win the 100-meter dash, and you want somebody to shake your hand. It's just like, what are we even doing? You're not competing fairly. So like, what's the point? It's just like I don't get it. But there's something for everybody. I learned this a couple weeks ago because I started trying to. I was late to the party. I'd seen everybody else play it. I decided to try some Slay the Spire, and then I remembered why I don't like roguelikes because I am not spending time to do all that all over again. Like, just not my game. But again, I didn't sit here and go, everybody who likes roguelikes is crazy. Y'all are wasting so much time and blah. It's like, you know what? There's a place for it, and there's people that enjoy it. I'm not going to go out of my way just to knock it because I don't like it. Like, that's fine. People can enjoy it. Let people have their fun if they're not harming anybody. But I'm going to step off and I'm going to let you get on here for your soapbox for a minute.
All right, as we talk about this time every year, it is Black History Month in February, and I want to give a shout out to NBA 2K. Let's be honest, a lot of the time I have to talk about the ridiculous, crazy thing they're doing. But for this month, they've given us actually the first 3 Black players to enter the NBA as cards in my team, because apparently 2025 was the, I believe, 75th anniversary of them entering the game, and when the first owner decided to draft a Black player, apparently one of the owners nudged him, was like, "Hey, he's colored, right?" He goes, "I don't care if he's striped, polka dot, or whatever. This is who I want."
Yep, I'm trying to win some ball games.
Right? So yeah, that is Chuck Cooper, Nat Sweetwater Clifton, who actually played for the Harlem Globetrotters before he was in the NBA, and Earl Lloyd. And there's actually you can get a pack where you pick one, but because they want you to be able to play all 3 of them and learn more about them, you can do challenges where you can eventually earn all 3 of these cards for free. And as we talked about, NBA 2K don't give you a whole lot for free, so when they do, it's obviously important.
It's news.
Right? Give them a shout out when they give you cards for free. And again, credit where it's due. They just gave us the greatness challenges last week. These have been some of the best free drops we've had since the game started. So I don't know who. Well, we've been joking like, has NBA 2K been hacked? Who's in charge over there? How are we getting all these great free cards? But I'm happy they're doing it, especially in this case. This is talking about again, Black history. To just think about what the NBA would be like if this had never happened. Really, at this point, almost all of our pro sports, if they had never been integrated, can you imagine all the people we would have lost?
Oh, sure. And we're seeing that in a lot of sports where they're even starting to make exceptions to get some of those like Negro League level organizations, into their Hall of Fames,
Right?
which is cool to see that change over the years.
Because some of the numbers they put up were ridiculous. And they did all the time exhibitions against major league ball players and did very well and oftentimes just stomped them.
Yeah. So it's very interesting, the history of so much stuff. But yeah, that's cool that they're doing that. And it also sounds like they probably have had these things, or at least last couple of weeks worth of drops scheduled for a bit, because it sounds like they gave y'all quite a few cards.
Right?
So
So
somebody
maybe
did some
players
work on
over
those.
profits actually had some kind of impact.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Fingers crossed. And we're hoping, I know Madden usually does something along these lines. Just thinking, and again, if anybody else is doing anything or sees somebody out there that's doing something to commemorate Black History Month, by all means, let us know, because we're not everywhere all at once, so we're not going to see all of it. But definitely let us
Yeah.
know about
Speaking
that.
of, shout out to Joe Johnson over at Black Nito over on Tabletop Jocks. He is on TikTok doing he's asking all of the Black Magic players to give their favorite character from the game and like different tips and tricks with the character or whatever. And he's putting that up for once a day for the month of February.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So you don't follow him on TikTok? Go over there. You might learn something.
Yeah, on App Trigger, we're doing kind of obviously not necessarily with. I mean, basically, what I'm going to try to have is a Black history story of some kind, pretty much every day. And because people like NBA 2K and Madden are doing this so far, I have not not had to search too hard. So we're going to talk about the Negro League storylines in MLB because they're doing that again. That's been one of the great programs. And yes, we'll talk a lot more about that as we get more information about MLB. But for some reason, if you hadn't, even if you don't plan to play the game, if you just want to go online, I'm sure the videos are on. You can see those videos; they are incredible. The Black Diamonds podcast is also something that's incredible, just very educational and very entertaining.
Yeah, that's one of the best ones, honestly. But all right, let's talk about some things that we learned because this is a little bit surprising to me because I feel like this is something came up before, but people didn't know. And what I'm talking about is there was a post that came up on, I believe the subreddit is Me IRL, where people just talk about like real life things and various stuff there. But what somebody had posted was basically talking about how people don't understand that just being in the top percentage of a social media platform doesn't mean you're making a lot of money. And this particular person who has since removed their post, I went to look on it so I could link it or whatever for the show notes, but apparently it's gone now. But the person was on the adult place where you would keep yourself warm if you use fans only, you know. But they were saying I believe they said they were in the top 5% and they were only making, I think, between 3 and 500 a month. And people were a little surprised by that. But I remember we talked about it here on the show as we were learning different things in social media or whatever, and having to explain to folks that if you take a platform our listeners are more familiar with, like Twitch or YouTube, Twitch as an example, if you just have five, just five concurrent viewers regularly for a month, you're in the top like 2% or 5% of Twitch streamers. And people are just like, oh, how is that even possible? And it's like, well, technically, anybody who's ever streamed is included in those numbers.
Exactly.
It could have been somebody got on and streamed something for an online course for people or whatever,
Right.
and then never streamed again, or did some interview on there or whatever the case is. They're included in those numbers. So there's just this huge, vast ball of people. And in some cases, it's probably even counting people that have never streamed, but you have an account,
Almost every video game site I've worked for, certainly within probably the past 5 to 10 years, has had somebody, whoever's in charge of social media, attempt to do Twitch. And in a lot of cases, the broadcast happens 5 or 6 times, never happened again. But like you said, they're still counted.
Yep, they're still counted as a streaming channel, right? Now, I'm sure if you took it like on a per month basis of people who have streamed at least so many hours in the last, I don't know, 6 months or 12 months, or you probably get more accurate numbers. But to deep dive into that, who knows? And the companies aren't going to want to give those numbers anyway if they don't have to. So we'll probably never know what the actual numbers are. But the people that make the real money are like in the 1/10 of 1%, not even the top 1%ers. And I don't think people really understand. And it's the Scalabrini rule, right? Like where you're in the top 5%, you're still closer to me than you are to LeBron or whatever, like
Right.
Scalabrini said, right? Closer to me than you are to a Markiplier or a Mr. Beast or whatever, right? Right. It's one of those tough things that I think it's hard for people to really, because we always hear like, oh, 1%. And we know that generally if you're in the 1%, you're really good. But it's a matter of scale of the number of people involved. Like if you're in the top 1% of the NFL or the NBA or wherever, yeah, you're
Yeah.
killing it. Like, but that's a much smaller pool of players, right? Hell, there's been so few people in the NBA that I think they said something like LeBron James has at some point in time played against like 57% or something of all the players that have ever played in the NBA, which is wild, but because
Right.
he's played for 22 years, right? But that just kind of tells you how small the pool of people are. So when you say 1%, like, okay, that's a real number. But when you're talking about Hell, Spotify is another example, right? When people are in, they're in the top 5% of downloads or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, but they still may have only made probably five, six, $700 for that month because there's so many aspiring artists that post stuff on there and don't get any downloads. Right? Same thing on YouTube. A bunch of people, hell, so many people have YouTube channels just to post stuff for family,
Right.
right? Like, that are only ever going to get 20 views or whatever, and that's it. So anybody in the industry is already aware. Like, if I go try to reach out to a social media manager or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm in the top 2% of Twitch and 3% of YouTube or whatever, they'll just go like, yeah, okay, but what are your actual numbers? Right? They don't care about that because they know how the system works. It looks good though to put on a, resume or whatever for people who don't know. Like, not gonna lie, if I was going to apply for something, I'd put the numbers down and just like, hey, if they don't know, then I look great. You know what I mean?
Story about this that just came up. Mewtwo King, who's considered to be basically one of the four gods of competitive Smash Bros. He only gets $2 an hour from ads on Twitch. And again, you think one of the literal, probably top, even at this point, still top, let's say 9 or 10 Smash Bros. Players in the world, you would think would be making more than that, but no. Especially right now because there's not a new game out.
Yeah.
Switch 2 is out. There hasn't been a new. We know at some point there will be a Smash Bros. Obviously, because it's a Nintendo Switch. But as of yet, that hasn't been announced. So right now, he's averaging about 30 viewers.
Yeah, that's wild. Like, that's basically what I average when I stream. 25 to 30,
Yeah,
which is crazy because that dude's following is way bigger than mine. But like you're saying, it's only a couple bucks on ads. You have to make that up in other places.
right.
You know, it's kind of like on YouTube. When they say, "Oh, if you reach 1,000 subscribers, which is like the threshold to get part of the ad revenue," they'll tell you you're already in the top like 5% of YouTubers or whatever. I was like, yeah, okay, but that doesn't mean anybody's making money. And sadly, I've seen that happen to people like, oh, I finally got paid. I'm gonna get ad revenue, whatever. And then in the month they're like, oh, I made $42. It's like, yeah. like that seems about right. It's like, just because you got the threshold doesn't really mean much. And you wonder why everybody gets ad revenue and goes and find these partnership deals and are making appearances and writing stuff and like, because YouTube, or not even just YouTube, Twitch, whatever, a lot of times are just the venue or the vehicle to build up their stock so they can get paid from these other sources. Right? It's not the source itself because it's a competitive market. There's a lot of people trying to do it. Hell, there's so many people trying to do it because it looks easy, right? But there's so many people also get into it and they're done in 2 months. there's a reason. But yeah, people genuinely sounded like they didn't know and they just didn't understand the numbers. So there you go. Hopefully you are more informed that if somebody just says they're in the top X%, unless it's like less than 1%, they may not be making all that much depending on the platform and what they do. But all right, Brian, there was also something cool for Marvel Rivals that you had found out.
I'm actually switching up since I can't
Oh,
can't find the verification. And
well,
I
we'll
know for
talk
a
about
fact,
Marvel Rivals next week then.
this happened. End of an era. We were just talking about NBA 2K, and for those of us old enough to remember, there used to be multiple NBA video games. That sadly is not the case anymore because EA just really couldn't figure that out. And this past week, NBA Live 19 finally turned the servers off. Especially by EA standards, this was up for what, 7, almost 8 years. So you guys say pretty long time, and it's because they know they're probably never making another basketball game again, which is unfortunate. They just couldn't really get their act together. They at one point even hired Mike Wang, who's the gameplay director of NBA 2K, to come over there and fix it. Even he couldn't fix it. I guess that's how far behind EA had fallen, and so now for those of us that are of the age where you remember how all this went down, it got so bad they're going to rebrand it from NBA Live to NBA Elite. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
literally the first year of the rebrand, they dropped a demo and it had so many glitches. They realized after dropping, which means by the point you got the demo out, the game's almost gone gold. It's ready to come out the door. But the demo was so bad, they realized we cannot put this game out. And then we kind of just stumbled around with them until NBA Live 19, and that was the last thing they did. It's apparently, I think there was an NBA Live mobile, for people that really want to play an EA basketball game, but yeah, any kind of major console or PC release, I guess, is just looks like never going to happen again, at least not anytime soon. They even tried to do a college basketball game. Problem being, they hadn't made a basketball game in at this point more than 10 years. So when they went around and started going around to colleges, 2K had been there already. All the deals had been done. So they unfortunately had to announce, hey, we're making a college basketball game. And they come back a week later and announce, actually, we're not making a college basketball game because we can't get anybody to work with us. Awkward.
You know what's crazy is I think the bigger part of the story is they left the servers up for 7 years.
Right?
Because
That was for the
usually,
dedicated fans.
yeah, a lot of times, at least in my experience, when a game is, basically dead or no longer being supported, they're like, all right, we'll leave it up for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Tops. And then that's it. So the fact that, like, when you said they just shut the servers, like, damn, like those were even still up. I wouldn't even have thought you could get online to play a game from 2020 or whatever at this point.
And when they signed off with Live 19, they thought, I think they said, well, we're still working on it. And then it just kind of, they realized, yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
We can't seem to get this going. And again, thought they were making a college basketball game, but their reputation has gotten so bad to where that couldn't even happen. So it's unfortunate because, as we talk about in here, monopolies are not good for anybody, least of all the consumer. So I love NBA 2K. Before I go to bed tonight, I'll probably play a couple hours of NBA 2K, but still, I would like there to be some kind of competition in this space. It's just better for everybody when you have more choices, because part of the reason NBA 2K is able to charge exorbitant amounts and keep their hand in our pockets, because if you want to play with actual LeBron James and not
Larry
dude
King.
number 23
Yeah.
or small forward other team, NBA 2K is unfortunately the only game in town, and will continue to be for the foreseeable future, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, sadly, it's just kind of way it's come. Hell, we're about to see it in sports cards. We're about to hit that point where there's not going to be but one or two companies making stuff anymore. So sadly, capitalism's going to capitalism, I guess.
Yeah.
But all right, let's get into a couple of quick topics here. Yeah, Brent, I don't know if you saw this week, there was a very strange Secret Lair that went out.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand it, but the idea, it was called All Prince Charming, which was a little weird because it was just like 4 nature themed cards. It was Nature's Lore, Sky Shroud Claim, Wood Elves, and Dryad Arbor. So in and of itself, the card selection was not very expensive. I think the most expensive version of any of these might only be like $5 or $6. So that was already kind of a weird thing. But then they put it up with 4 different prices. Actually, no, I stand corrected. 5 different prices you could buy it at. $10, $20, $30, $35, and $40. And for the non-foil, and then the others were basically $10 each more for the foil pricing. The weird thing to me is how quick members of the community jumped on it and were like, oh, well, this is just a money grab from Wizards and they're trying to see how much people will pay or whatever. But we've already had Secret Lairs that cost these prices. So that doesn't really make sense. And
nothing pertaining to it really made sense.
Well, sure. But I just mean from a price grab perspective. And if that was the case, well, you also have the $10 and $20 options, and people are just going to buy those first anyway. So unless you had a insane amount more available at $40 than you do $10, like otherwise, and even then, it's going to somewhat balance at some point anyway, because for every $10 sale, you got to make up another $30 to equal the $40 sale. So the scale wouldn't really make sense for me.
But spoiler alert, when you do greedy stuff, people will continue to accuse you of being greedy.
Oh, sure. Like, anytime a company does a thing, I get why people are immediately
Yeah.
jumping to this must be a money play, right? Like I get
Because
that.
why else do the companies very rarely do anything, for hey, this would be fun. The players would enjoy this. It absolutely looks like market research. It looks they're trying different price points.
But
Now,
that's
what?
my thing though is what are we trying to discern?
Yeah, that's the thing. Nobody can figure out what. Even they apparently aren't sure what they were trying to do because they've since apologized on the weekly MTG stream that they do.
Yeah, and they look like they're all down or sold out or whatever. So you can't get them. It actually just says no longer available. It doesn't even say sold out, right? So I don't it's one of
Also,
those
talking about what did I learn? I found out from this article talking about the whole debacle here with the Secret Lairs. There apparently is a senior Secret Lair director. That's how big it's gotten, where it's got its own
oh yeah.
somebody whose job is to literally be in charge of Secret Lair.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Because part of that job is also like going out, finding the artists, commissioning them to do special pieces.
Yeah,
Sometimes
also
they get to
true.
select cards. You have to approve stuff. There's a printing process that somebody's got to do the approvals on that. And but like so it makes sense. Like somebody, even if it was within the scope of R&D, whatever, somebody was going to have a job title related to Secret Lair at some point. But yeah,
And
this is
Lindsay Bartell, the senior Secret Lair director, say that like 5 times. I can't even say it one time fast.
yeah.
They basically said that looking at the website, they could see how this did not look great. But again, they had, good intentions and were trying to emulate with the kind of, pay what you want or early bird structure that you see in other products. And this just.
But that's my thing, right? Like if it's a pay what you want or pay what you can type structure, then you would have no price on it, or you would have a minimum and then people just pay whatever, right? Whatever you wanted to promote that. And it's usually from smaller organizations that either don't really know what a fair price is to charge,
Yeah.
or they're just like, hey, I know y'all want to support me. Just let's help keep the bus rolling. Pay what you can, and we'll take care of the people that can't pay as much or whatever. Right. And you see that with like restaurants and some other
Yep.
places will do that. But Wizards is neither of those things. So that doesn't really make sense. The price structure doesn't really make it a money grab. Even if they were doing a early bird special, whatever, they were all just available at the same time, or were going to be till they took them off or whatever. So that doesn't really make sense either, because then it's just like whoever gets there first is just going to buy the $10 and $20 ones. We all know that Magic players are notoriously cheap. Oh, gamers are notoriously cheap, so they ain't going to try to pay anything extra they don't have to. Hell, nobody will right now in this economy, to be honest.
Well, again,
So
I would say
mhm.
obviously the whales will. There's a percentage of people that absolutely will, because let's be honest, especially if you're not playing competitively, nobody needs $1,000 box of cardboard. You want a
let
thousand
me
dollar
tell you
box of
this: I
cardboard.
can't even the whales if they could buy two at $40, so $80, or eight for $10, they're probably still taking the eight at $10.
But some people just like tell you how much they paid for stuff, and you know these people too.
Sure, if there's a thing to prove that you did, right? They said these are all the same, none of them come with anything extra. Now, if the $40 ones came with some, I don't know, trinket, stickers, whatever, then cool. I would at least get it. And then if you just want the cards, you pay $10, right? Like, fine. Like, or a bonus card at $40, but if you just want these four, you get them at $10 or whatever the case is. But they even said outright, there is no difference between any of them at any of the prices. So
Oh, and also as part of this interview, again, it's the weekly MTG streams. If you want to go check it out, a lot of informative. They answered our question on why don't you just print to demand. And
oh, did they?
yeah, and Lindsay said basically the print to demand model introduced a bunch of costly logistical problems, and it's causing for players because, as this article mentioned, they would have to wait months before they got their Secret Lair card. So they said that the new limited run pre-printed system is just for WWE fans better for business.
Again, I have a system. I already talked about it and it works. I can't understand knowing what I know, unless things have drastically changed since I've been there. I'm just saying, hit me up, Wizards, if you want to talk about it. Like, I got a whole plan. But that aside, yeah, I think I'm with you. I think anytime you see a company do something weird and there's prices attached to it, like everybody's gonna go immediately, like, I don't get it. It must be to get the most money. But sometimes we got to take a step deeper and just say, like, somebody had some idea that started, I don't know, somewhere in the company, got moved across, went to the Secret Lair team. They said, sure, let's try this. All the proper people signed off on it. And then magically they were like, oh, people don't like this and this looks weird. Let's go ahead and take it down. We probably shouldn't have done this. So yeah, I don't get it. This is a very weird one because
Uh, According to them, they're
usually,
trying to pay what you can, and they did just not, by their own admission, a not great job of execution on that.
yeah, and maybe that was it. Maybe that was the concept and they just didn't have the right way to do it or something. I don't know because I've sat with this for a couple of days and been like, I can't really see what we were going for here. And if we were for any of the things we've talked about, like there's definitely a different approach for each of those that would be much better than
Yeah.
what they did. So I don't get it.
And as the telltale meme goes, everybody hated that. So it sounds like we're not doing it again.
That's true. We probably won't see that again. Other news, we had a pro tour this past weekend. I think I mentioned that when we were talking about the Kai story, but standard looks real. Not only does standard look good, there were lots of people actively excited about standard. Like people talking about getting back into standard finally. And which is good because when we banned those 7 cards a couple months ago, everybody's like, "Oh, well, this is just probably going to make the format even worse, and it's going to be slow, and it's going to be clunky, and blah 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 blah." None of those things came to be. There were hyper aggro decks, there was combo y type decks, there was mid rangey stuff, there was control stuff. I think the top 8 had 7 different decks in it. Just now, admittedly, that also includes draft rounds and whatever. But even if you
Yeah,
dive deeper into the standings, there's still a good variety of decks. Now, were there some cards that showed up a lot? Sure. People are going, oh, well, Badger Mole Cub was in a bunch of decks. Like, sure. But I
yeah,
view that as just like the package of green creatures, right?
right.
Just like you would in a control deck. Like, they're going to play the best search spells and best counters. You assume there's going to be these 8 or 12 cards in there if it's a control deck, right? That's fine. But if the rest of the deck is different outside of those few cards or creatures, then great. And it was fun match. There was a bunch of matches that went all the way to game fives, which was cool to watch in the top 8. So that was kind of exciting. Just lots of back and forth, multiple times. A couple of decks won with no cards in library, so that was kind of fun. So like, yeah, it just had a little bit of everything. So yeah, so far so good. And we have Turtles and Strixhaven coming over the next couple months, but so far
But Lorwyn is
everything's
going to go down in history. It looks like people already love the cards and the concepts. We love to go back to Lorwyn. Oh, and by the way, it looks like it really helped Standard out a bunch.
yeah.
Win
Over
win.
hell, even as much as people hated Spider-Man, some Spider-Man cards played key roles in a couple of decks and some sideboard stuff for matchups. So
Which Spider-Man card got it? Because this
uh
I didn't see the coverage. So.
Spider Sense got played in a few decks.
I'm happy Spider Sense actually turned out to be
Yeah.
something.
The Spectacular Spider-Man, that's the Reanimator card thing, was played. Obviously, Multiversal Passage helped the mana in a bunch of different decks. There was a few others, but for a small set to even have those penetrate into competitive environments is actually pretty sweet. To have 5 or 6 cards show up. And especially when you consider how big standard is right now.
Right.
We've got 3 years worth of sets. And standard will get a little bit larger temporarily at the end of this year because instead of rotating in September, October with that set release, we'll start to do regular rotations at the first of the year in 2027, which I like better anyway because it's easier messaging. Because when you have to explain to somebody like, oh no, they're standard legal till, and then they'll say like end of the year, and like, well, not really. It's going to be either September, October when the set drops, and it's a weird thing to just say like till the end of the year is a lot easier, right? It's just cleaner. So I'm glad we finally did it. We should have done that like hell 10, 15 years ago, but at least we got around to it. But yeah, then we had a weird thing, and if you don't like politics, this is where you need to just tune out. See you next week. You know, um, but and we're going to try to keep it gaming relevant. But if the only way you don't know about the Epstein files at this point, if your head's just been under a rock. But there was an interesting thing that came out that they connected some of the stuff in the recent drop of 3 million pages to 4chan of all places.
I was gonna say not only a politics warning, but just a sexual content warning because Jeffrey
Yeah,
Epstein stuff.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, this was well, on the one hand, it was like, huh, connected it over here to this like weird dark gaming site. All right. But also, yeah, 4chan, it tracks. You know, like
Right.
we've known that. Hell, and for those of you who don't know, because up until this week, I probably hadn't even mentioned 4chan in easily 5 years, it feels like. Maybe 4 years. But there was genuinely a point in time where if somebody shared a link of a story from 4chan, or I guess later 8chan, I guess it was, like I didn't even click on it because I didn't even want that in my history because it was so gross over there.
Also, it could be a virus. You just
Yeah,
never
that's true too.
know.
And then the wild thing is, think about this. Had you clicked on any of those endpoint and responded to any of this craziness, you might be in the e files. Right? Like, there's a point in time where it could have been like, oh, and right here, PowrDragn responded and said, like, oh no, like, you know what I mean? Like, that would have been crazy work. Like,
Right.
the biggest bullets I dodged? Like, oh my God,
Because a
that could
lot
have
of
been
people in the
crazy.
files are like, "Hey, okay, they were at a party, or they don't have any indication as of yet that they did anything wild." It's just, but if you're anywhere mentioned in any of like, apparently, I think a guy at Harvard basically asked Epstein for advice on how to pick up women, and he doesn't ask for young women.
Yeah,
He literally
yeah.
just, "Hey, I'm having problems with the ladies, but you're emailing Jeffrey Epstein about women, so it's gonna look he lost his job because you just that is not any smoke that Harvard or anybody
Yep.
wants right now."
And the reason it is important to bring up is that there were a lot of gamer related things that came out around sexuality, race, gender, whatever, that originated from 4chan. And now we're finding out that some of that could have been a smokescreen for some things. Where we talked about Gamergate and Pizzagate and whatever. And it turns out there's actual connections to other things that were actually going on that follow a lot of those details, but were for the people they were covering for potentially.
Yeah, and when I read this, I'm like, this has got to be fake, right? But no, it has been verified by multiple
Hmm.
sources. Epstein sent, can't believe I'm saying this sentence out loud. Can't believe I typed this sentence last week. Epstein sent 5 nights at Freddy's based porn. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's what it sounds like, to his girlfriend at the time, with the I guess the email title "Amazing Animations," and that actually happened. Also, Epstein was apparently banned from Xbox Live in 2013 because Microsoft agreed to work with the New York Attorney General to purge sex offender from the platform, and at that point, Jeffrey Epstein was a known registered sex offender. So, credit to Microsoft for saying, "Hey, we don't care who you are or how much money you got. Get the f off of Xbox Live, please."
So basically, not being Roblox.
Right.
But yeah, like again, for people who don't like having politics in their gaming, like this is where we talk about that a lot of times that crosses over. And if you just want to be really informed, like you can't ignore it.
Right.
Like this is a thing that came out. And the reason it's important because a lot of people were stressed. A lot of people, there were people who lost, people that got doxxed, people that got threatened, or whatever, over all this stuff that got posted or came out from 4chan at the time. And now we're finding out that could have potentially been targeted or been part of another operation, which is wild to find out, 8 and 10 years after the facts.
And also
Like,
mentioned in the files, Bill Gates, Microsoft founder, Bobby Kotick, who was the CEO of Activision for a long, and of course also has multiple charges of various assaults and things pertaining to him. That's another one where, like, least least surprising news ever that Bobby Kotick would appear somewhere in
yeah,
the Epstein
yeah.
files. He everybody that can deny has. Gates has, Kotick has, apparently Leslie Benvez from Rockstar Grand Theft Auto has also been mentioned, has denied everything, but there are also multiple multiple assault charges not pertaining to Epstein against Leslie. So that's again not surprising to see Leslie turn up apparently.
Yeah. But this just goes to show that, for as much as we try to use gaming for escapism or whatever, there's still a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes and under the hood sometimes. right? And we're not going to know till things get investigated. But a lot of times they don't. It takes sometimes crazy situation. Hell, this goes all the way back to the Blizzard stuff and the riot stuff that like we had
Right.
covered in those court cases 2 and 3 years ago, right? Like, the stuff that was in those documents was insane, like genuinely insane. Like the fact that, and they went on for some of those things were going on for like 8 years. Like like genuinely, like it's hard, and I get it when you're in the trenches and you're in those spots. Like and some people need their jobs and whatever. They don't want to rock the boat. I get all that, but man, it would have been hard for me to be there and not like I if I didn't report something, I would have just had to walk away. Like some of it's just too crazy, but this goes on, right?
And another frightening detail: apparently, Benzie's girlfriend was apparently, in addition to allegedly being assaulted by Leslie, she is also a victim of Epstein. So again, you're kind of least shocking stuff ever to see Leslie in these files.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, where some of these people at some point might have had people defending them. Like, oh,
Yeah,
well, maybe we're misinterpreting, thing, or maybe this person just said this, or maybe this person had it out to get them because they were a rich person in this position, whatever. And now we're starting to connect more dots. And yeah, at some
right.
point, you kind of have to go like, maybe they really are that bad of a person,
Yeah.
you know? But all right, Brian, when we're not scouring through piles of files, where can they find you?
Yeah, all this stuff is over at App Trigger. God help us. It's. Yeah, we are tracking all this, and we're talking about not just Epstein files, but WWE 2K is about to launch. As I mentioned, we're going to be doing a bunch of Black History related stuff. MLB The Show is also going to launch here in about a month, so we got a lot of actually fun, enjoyable stuff happening too. So please stop by and check that out.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about Magic in general, I started doing a single card strategy series, just taking different cards and different ways you can use them. Real short videos, so you should come over and check those out. It's at YouTube, PowrDragn as usual. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome. And for the love of everything with stuff going on in the world right now, be awesome to each other.